All right, swamp apes, let's talk about something that's maybe not quite as fun as our typical survival um, subjects, but it's going to be super crucial at this point in time post-disaster. When people are doing cleanup and they're exposed to wounds and cuts and debris and bacteria in water or bacteria just in their environment or on themselves that they're producing because they're sweating, they're working, they don't have electricity, they don't have air conditioning. So at this point, we're starting to see some disease that's going to start creeping in that people just they're not thinking about that yet, right? And it's not cool to talk about on the news, so people just aren't going to have that on their radar. So I want to bring that and fill that gap, and that's what we do a lot on Spark Survival as we talk about that stuff. So thanks for clicking on this. Thanks for coming along. Let's get into it a little bit real briefly because I don't have a lot of time myself, but I know you guys are probably busy as well if you're facing any of this stuff on the eastern seaboard. All right, so self-sanitation. Let's talk about hand sanitizer. So when do we use that? We use that before or after handling any kind of raw food or any food in general, before using the bathroom, or excuse me, after using the bathroom. Wet wipes or baby wipes are another good thing that we can utilize to just get a quick cleanup in between bouts of actual sanitation. So what do we do for actual sanitation? Like I'm talking about showers and things. If you don't have access to bottled water, hopefully you do, and let me talk about that real briefly. If you do have access to bottled water, what you would do is set those out, hopefully in the sun. If you have sun up at that point in time, warm those bottles up. If you don't want to do that, you can skip that part, right? Take 2 bottles, one of each. You want to conserve water. The first one is to dump over your head. This is what we did in the Marine Corps, right? Dump that canteen or that water bottle, in our case, over your head. If you need more, use more, but try to conserve, right? That first one, you get all wet. The second one, you lather up in between that and the second one. The second one is to rinse you off. So it's kind of like a Navy shower in the way that you get wet, get soapy, get wet again, dry off, you're done. Clean all the cracks and all the stuff that needs to be done in the meantime, but pour the water over your head and that's it. That's some personal hygiene and sanitation. But what if you don't have access to bottled water or you can't sacrifice that to clean yourself, which I kind of think at this point you might need to consider doing. You might have to find access to some groundwater and then pre-filter that through maybe some layers of clothing, several layers of clothing or cloth, something that's relatively clean. And then, get that into maybe a 5-gallon bucket. And then you got access to water if you have bleach or if you can boil that water. A lot of the water is going to be in a boil notice or boil warning at this point anyway. So just plan on needing to boil water. If you have access to bleach, it's 8 drops per gallon. Let it sit for 30 minutes. If you're doing a large quantity of water, obviously that's more. You're going to need to do the math on that. If you're more concerned about it and you're only using it for hygiene and not for washing your clothes, which we'll get into in a minute, you can use more bleach than that. Just don't go crazy and just start dumping bleach into a 5-gallon bucket or anything like that. You want to actually measure it out a little bit, especially if it's for personal consumption. But anyway, for hygiene purposes, yeah, at least 8 drops. Don't go overboard. And that's per gallon, wait 30 minutes. So, laundry. People aren't going to talk about these. These aren't exciting survival things to be talking about, but this is going to be a crucial time where disease is going to start setting in. So we need to talk about these things. I'm trying to just get it done briefly because, I got to get to stuff as well. So similar idea. Filter that water, get it in a 5-gallon bucket if you have access to that, or whatever container you have. Apply the appropriate amount of bleach. Now, this is where it's crucial. You don't want to bleach your clothes, so let that water sit. Don't use more bleach than necessary, but get that water clean enough. Add some Dawn dish soap. You can wash clothes in it. I know it's a crazy concept. That's dish detergent, but guess what? You can wash clothes in it too. Soap is soap in that regard. Agitate. That's how you wash clothes. You agitate it in a bucket, right? String them up on a line. If you have another clean bucket of water, you can rinse them out. But if there's some residual soap, as long as you don't have a allergic reaction to a little bit of soap in your clothes, it's going to be okay. It's better than the alternative of having a buildup of bacteria or maybe disease that's starting to get on your clothing. So it's super important to decontaminate and think about those things as we go through this process, as we're prolonged without things like power, running water, access to laundromats and things like that, because they're going to be down with power in a lot of cases as well. They don't have water running. They don't have power either. So guess what? You ain't doing laundry anytime soon. as that progresses, start thinking about those things. As you're prioritizing things like fuel and gas, think about sanitation as well. These are the things that just aren't quite as on everybody's radar. If the news doesn't talk about it, we're not thinking about it, right? I like in this channel to get into filling in the gaps in between where things are being missed. So we'll be back with more, guys. I try to kind of pick into those things that aren't being covered, that aren't necessarily cool in the moment, but they're going to be important to you when I mention it, and when your wheels start turning, you're like, oh. So anyway, if you have things that you do or that you're concerned about when it comes to sanitation, specifically in this video, shoot me a message. Get in there, hit a comment. Let me know if you guys are appreciating the content that's coming out on this channel, and I will see you soon. Thank you.